Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an ice cold damage Arctic Land Druid in Baldur's Gate 3. So this build guide will be covering all the skills we're going to be taking and some equipment at the end. So we're going to be starting with the Druid here. Now the Druid's actually a very underrated class, and cold damage in particular can be doubled with Create Water, as that creates a vulnerability, so this can do some serious damage. Also, Shillelagh is a pretty good cantrip because this is going to add deals 4 to 11 bludgeoning damage and uses your spell casting ability for attack rolls. So we're going to want to use Wisdom because that allows us to use Wisdom for our attack rolls. Really nice. Also, Thorn Whip's pretty good damage as well. So for our ability scores, we need to spread ourselves through. So if you're going with your Tav or Dark Urge, you can use the Hags here to take your Wisdom up to 18. Otherwise, I would put it at 16 here, and we're going to want to have a good amount of Constitution. Dexterity gives us more initiative, so this is another stat we want to be good at, as well as having a decent amount of Charisma. But our big skills will be our Wisdom and our Constitution. To a lesser degree, our Dexterity as well, but something like this can work. We can even take the round something like that if you want to go a little lower in Charisma, but if you're the face of the party, take a little higher Charisma. As for our skills, Animal Handling's okay, but you're going to be in your Wild Shape, making Animal Handling actually kind of irrelevant because you can just go into Wild Shape and get better dialogue options. So I'd recommend going to like Insight or Perception. Survival doesn't really make a big difference because you can just shovel wherever you're, if you have a survival check go off, you can always just use the shovel and get all the benefits. So that's it for level 1. We get to choose our subclass, and we're going to obviously go into the Circle of the Land. So Circle of the Land still gives us a Wild Shape. We get to choose what we want there, but we also get Natural Recovery, so we can replenish our expended spell slots while out of combat using our Natural Recovery charges. As for the cantrips, Guidance is a pretty good one. You may have a Cleric that will have Guidance, and the Cleric using Guidance is a pretty good option as well. Or Resistance is decent too. Produce Flame gives you a Light, which can be very useful in Act 2, so I'm going to go with that. And it also can, if you have an Ice Surface, you can turn it into water with that. As for prepared spells, there's a few that we definitely want to always have. Create or Destroy Water allows us to set up our big cold spells and our lightning spells. As an ice Arctic Druid, we use mostly cold spells, but lightning also has the benefit of being doubled by Create Water, so we may as well take advantage of that synergy there. Healing Word is a really nice bonus action heal. I highly recommend taking this because if you have a teammate that's downed, you can use this as a bonus action to bring them back up. Thunder Wave is pretty nice too. This is a big pushback. 2d8 thunder damage. We aren't really focusing on thunder, but this can be nice if you get a lot of creatures around you and you need to push them back. Long Shredder is nice to have, but we're going to go with Ice Knife because this is a cold build, so ice kind of goes hand in hand. And Fog Cloud is another really good one, so you can use this to create a heavily obscured area. So we're going to go with that for our spells at level 1. And once we get through the levels, we get to choose the circle that we want to go with. So the Circle of the Land, the Arctic's the first one we want to go with because this gives us Hold Person. Although we can get Hold Person through other means, I think that this is the best way to get it here because we also get Spike Growth, which is a really nice crowd control spell. However, later on in the levels, we have a summon that can cast this for us. The Circle of the Coast is good though because you don't get Misty Step by another method, so being able to get Mirror Image is nice too because it can increase your armor class by 9. But we're going with, this is an Arctic Druid build, so I need to pick that obviously. Now for some good early game damage, Moonbeam is actually pretty decent. You can use an action to remove the beam too, so that can be decent damage early on for you. Pass Without Trace is good if you have like a stealth focused team. And I like Flame Blade, but we can actually make a permanent Flame Blade using a little bit of a trick. And Heat Metal would make sense, but I'm going to go with the Moonbeam there because this is mostly supposed to be focused on ice and moon. It's cold at nighttime. We also get the Deep Rothe form at level 4. We don't really get our big power spike till next level. Take Guidance for your cantrip. And for the second level 2 spell, Lesser Restoration's okay. Gust of Wind is nice because you can push creatures off balance. I really like Flame Spear, but this doesn't suit with the ice theme very well. This is a concentration, but it is a summon too, so it can take hits for your team. We'll go with like Enhance Ability or Gust of Wind, not the best spell, but it pushes creatures back, so this gives us a bit more usefulness out in battle. For our feat, I would recommend taking our Wisdom up because it's going to be a huge stat for us as a Druid. We want to have that high for our spell casting. At level 5, this is where we get our extra attack in our Wild Shape form, and we get some really nice spells, and we get our next Circle of the Land. So this is the only way we can get Haste, which is obviously an incredible spell, and we can also get Sleet Storm here. There's some other choices we could go with if you wanted to get some different spells, but a lot of the times I think the best option is to go with this here to get ourselves haste. If you really wanted to get lightning bolt, you can get it from the mountain. The lightning bolt's a really good damage, 8d6 lightning damage. But I think that haste is also a really good option, so we'll go with haste for this. And then for our leveled spells, I'd recommend taking Call Lightning, because this gives us some reliable damage that we can double Create Water. It can deal upwards of 60 damage, so that's really nice. And Plant Growth is extremely powerful crowd control. It'll quarter movement speed, and it does not require concentration. That is the biggest part here, is it lasts for 10 turns with no concentration. It hits a huge area. We also get Land Stride, so we can go over difficult terrain without being slowed down, so we can walk on our own plant growth. This makes it so that the Land Druid's armor is really useful here, but I'm going with this because it gives us a free level 4 cast of Create Water to deal double damage with, and we can also create a lot of ice surfaces that way. Daylight's an okay spell when you're in Act 2 because it gives you much needed brightness, but yeah, I think that even like going back to Good Barrier, Long Strider is probably the best choice here. We'll go Long Strider. I would rather have this being cast from someone on the based out of your camp, because you can apply that to people. Even Protection from Energy is not bad, because you can give yourself resistance to a damage type, which can help change some encounters if you know that you're going to be facing a certain damage. Now, level 7 is a huge power spike for the Land Druid. We also get to choose our next circle here. We can get ourselves a free Minor Elemental and Ice Storm, but normally we would be able to like pull them from there, so as you can see, we can have those spells there. So it's best to go with something that you normally can't get, like Firewall is a pretty good one. Freedom of Movement is okay. I really think that this got a big buff, Grasping Vine, but I think that we're going to go with the Arctic, because free Conjure and Minor Elemental and Ice Storm is pretty nice. Although we would be able to put our spells elsehow. I think that taking something like Confusion is this is a really good spell. Underrated. Is a huge area of effect like Fireball, but it applies Confusion for 3 turns. If you don't want to take that, Firewall is decent to be able to, it's a concentration, but it's crowd control, and then you can do your ice spells alongside it, which is interesting synergy. Grasping Vine's got a big buff. It lasts for 10 turns. This used to be an action, and now it's a bonus action, and it'll drag creatures towards itself, so you can spawn that in and use it to pull people towards your lightning or your cold spells. The free Minor Elementals is nice, because we want to always have our Minor Elementals up at all times, including the Woodland Being. They're extremely useful, so highly recommend them. Confusion's great. If you want, you can take Firewall. It doesn't fit fully with the Ice Druid theme, but it's still a really good crowd control spell. We also get a level 8, our next ability improvement. 2 really good options. You can go with Warcaster to get advantage on saving throws to maintain concentration, but we can also get that from using the Constitution Amulet if you're in Act 3, so you get 2 options there. This also allows us to cast Shocking Grass, which will have its damage doubled from our Create Water. I think that Alert's another great option. +5 to Initiative is always useful for any type of build, but I'm going to go with the Ability Improvement score, take our Wisdom up to 20. Now, there is a couple cool ways we can synergize this by adding in some things at a final level. I'll be getting to that at level 11, or level 12, I guess. We get another Circle of the Land here, and going with the Arctic gives us the only way we can get Cone of Cold, which is a big damage source for us at the end game, because it's level 5 spell, 8d8 of cold damage, which is doubled, so that's like, it's 64 max damage normally, but that gets doubled to 128, which is extremely powerful. And you can create an icy surface on the ground where creatures will just trip on it, so you can literally shut down martial classes with this. And Contagion's okay, poison a target and possibly afflict them with a disease of your choice. Now this takes 3 turns for it to take hold, but you can apply this to targets later on. They'll get a poison, and sometimes you can pull it off with no aggro. There are some other options we could go with, but I do think that it's best to give ourselves a free Cone of Cold, because we can't normally select it from here. Always take Conjure Elemental, because the Water Elemental can set up Wet as well, so you can teleport it, make it attack, and then attack it with an Ice attack, and it's going to do a ton of damage. And also going with like Insect Plague for crowd control can be good. Greater Restoration and Mass Cure Wounds are okay. These are healing spells. Doesn't do a ton of healing, but I think Insect Plague is good for the difficult terrain. It can help out in certain situations, and Piercing Damage can go alongside a few different builds if you have the ability to apply Vulnerability. At level 10 we get our extra attack in our Wild Shape, and we get our subclass feature, Nature's War. Can't be charmed or frightened by elementals. elementals and Fey, and then also disease and poison doesn't affect us. So nice not being able to get poisoned. And then we get the Dilophosaurus for the cantrip, anything but poison damage, so resistance. And then for our next leveled spell, Confusion. I don't know why it got taken off, but Confusion is an amazing choice, so we'll go with that. Confusion's underrated spell for crowd control. Finally, at level 11, we get ourselves a level 6 spells. Hero's Feast is probably the best one here. The only thing is, you can actually get someone at your camp to apply Hero's Feast to everyone, and you already have the ability to avoid being poisoned and disease. So, Hero's Feast is extremely useful, but you can have someone at camp do it. So, I'm going to add on Wall of Thorns. This is actually an underrated. It's a little bit better than the Blade Barrier that the Cleric gets. So, create a wall of pliable, twisted thorns surrounded by entangling vines. It lasts for 60 turns, concentration. When it entangles a target, it really gives them a big debuff. So, much better than Blade Barrier with just the reduction to crowd or to terrain. But we're going to go with that for our spells. And now, this is the big moment that we can do. We can add in one of two classes. Now, this depends where you're at in the game. If you have the Constitution Amulet, equip it to give yourself advantage in Constitution saving throw proficiency. And that's going to help you with holding your concentrations on spells. But what we're going to want to do is add in, if you have the Constitution Amulet, add in the Barbarian, because it can add the Charisma or Constitution modifier to your armor class, which really buffs up your damage. If not, adding in the Monk will give us the unarmed defense, which adds our Wisdom class, so that we get that nice +5 to our Wisdom. But the Barbarian actually ends up being stronger if you have that amulet. So you can also do Rage and go into Wild Shape, because this deal an extra 2 damage with melee and improvised weapons. This is a bonus action, so you can Rage, and then you can go into Wild Shape, because the Land Druid actually... The Moon Druid can't do this because both of them use a bonus action, but the Land Druid has an action Wild Shape, so you can Rage, go into combat. And when you're in Wild Shape form, your armor class is lower, so it draws the AI of the enemy towards you, and it'll tank for the class, it'll tank for your team. And then you get the increased damage negation from Raging. So actually does have some synergy here, and I'll show you the armor class for proof, because we're wearing light armor with 26 armor class, so that's +6 from our Constitution from the Constitution Amulet. I'm also using the Cold Brim hat once per turn on any condition inflicted on a target. Also applies 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost, which lowers their dexterity abilities rolls. And then the Winter's Clutch, which the wearer deals cold damage, inflict 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost. So there's some nice synergy here. And also there's the ring that we can add some more ice to our attacks. I'm just going to try and find it here. I have a lot of rings. That's another option that we can go with, because some of the status that we can set up with ice damage are really easy to get off with the Cone of Cold. I'm not sure where the ring is. It might be in the storage there, but the Amulet of Greater Health is what gives us this 23 Constitution score, which gives us that +6 to our armor class, which is why we wanted to add in the Barbarian. And also gives us advantage on Constitution saving throw checks, so we'll hold our concentration a little bit longer. I like the Wave Mother's Robe because it gives resistance to fire and cold damage, so we get resistance to cold, which is kind of ironic, but also gives us the ability to heal within water, which we would get from the Armor of Landfall. I even dyed the Armor of Landfall to be nice and Arctic. Just doesn't do as good. It gives you a plant growth and advantage on Constitution. It gives us advantage on Constitution saving throw checks, so if you don't have this, you can actually go with this, and it'll be a good option. I just think of the Wave Mother's Robe, because we get a level 4 Create Water. So when we cast that, look at the area that it hits. And that's going to get benefited by our ice damage. And so I'll show you, I guess, we want to summon in the ice methods here. So these can do ice damage. We want to summon in, you get 2 options for the Conjure Major. You can go with the Water Myrmidon or the Water Elemental. I'm also a big fan of the Air Elemental, but for the purposes of this build, we want to go with that one. And then we'll also summon in our Woodland Being. So the ice methods, you get 2 of them, and they get an ice attack, 2 to 12 ice damage, 46, so 4 to 24 ice damage, or 2 to 16 chromatic orb. And they also have the freezing claws attack. So you get 2 of those, they can explode, deal extra damage. We get the wave, the water elemental here, dealing cold damage, slam into a foe and create a puddle of water around the impact site. So whenever he attacks, he inflicts water. And then he can also deal cold damage, Winter's Breath, 46 of cold damage. So these all work together really well, setting up the advantage on freezing cold damage. And with the Dryad here, what we can do is we can summon in the Woodwoad, which has even more health. And this class is going to be our spike growth. So this gets a free cast of spike growth, and you can continue to go in and do damage. Strengthened Shillelagh deals 6 to 34 bludgeoning damage with our Twisted Oak Crook. And then also the Woodwoad here has Entangle, which is really nice, and Regeneration, so it can heal itself. But even so, it still has some pretty good damage. So we got a good amount of summons here, and good amount of health with 137. Also, you can summon in like us if you have us there, so you got that as another summon. We also got the Natural Recovery, so we can recover up to a level 5 spell slot and then a level 1. So that's nice because we can do our Long Strider on someone and recover it, and then we can do a Cone of Cold and recover that. We get two casts of it, but we can also use the Arcane Battery. And I want to mention that the Marka Heshkir Staff works really great on this build, but even if you got the another spell choice would be the Crutches of Cold, the Morning Frost. Heart of Ice, when dealing cold damage, deal an additional 1 cold damage. And dealing cold damage with a spell possibly inflicts chill upon the target. So that can give your force users extra vulnerability on attacks, so that's really nice too. I think that this is a great staff to use. It deals cold damage as well. But another use is we can use Kareska's Favor with the Marka Heshkir, and we can do 2 different options. There's the Frost of the Dark Winter, which will add our proficiency bonus of Wisdom +5 to our cold damage, so +5 cold damage, which is better than the Morning Frost. And this gives us a free cast of Cone of Cold and Ice Storm. I also really like the Bolts of Doom, because the Bolts of Doom, it's a little bit stronger because it gives us a free Chain Lightning. We don't have the ability to get Chain Lightning elsewhere, so the 10 to 80 damage is really nice because it'll jump around to people, and 80 turns to 160 with vulnerability. Also, the Lightning Bolt, 8 to 48 damage is really nice, hits all creatures in a line. Those 2 spells are really good, plus the free cast, so we can do a Cone of Cold as well. This class is stacked. I actually think that the Druid is one of the best. And then on top of it all, we also have Crowd Control with Sleet Storm, Plant Growth, Confusion, Entangle. And on top of that, we can also go with our Wild Shape. And this is one of the best uses for this, because if anything, if you're in combat and things are going rough, you can turn yourself into, I would say the Owlbear is the best, because you get the most health in the Owlbear form. So if things go rough, you can turn into an Owlbear with 94 health twice. So we only end up using one of our Wild Shape charges there. So that can help tank for your team too, and you keep all your summons there. So if you set up water, you can just jump around and attack with your claws, while the rest of your team is doing their stuff to keep your crowd control up. So if you have sorcerers blasting with cold damage, everyone's contributing here. So extremely powerful. Having Wild Shape as like a backup if you ever are getting attacked and you need a heal, or if you need extra health and tanking, because the Owlbear has lower armor class than the rest of your team, so it'll attract hits there. They can make everything here very synergetic amongst each other. So yeah, that is a very powerful Ice Cold Arctic Druid build guide in Baldur's Gate 3. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.